then, of course, all members of Congress and all of the U.S. government officials, state and federal officials, take an oath to the Constitution. I did when I was in the Marine Corps. All right? So hardly anybody reads it. Hardly anybody understands it. And it's not dry. And in fact, it's very exciting if you get into it. And so I like to point out my favorite sentence, which is the first sentence in the Constitution, right after the preamble. It says simply that all legislative powers herein granted are vested in Congress. All lawmaking power is in Congress. That's the legislative branch. Now, everybody knows we got 3 branches, okay? So if all lawmaking power is in Congress, the legislative branch, how much of it is in the Supreme Court?
And the judicial branch, I would say none, because the Constitution didn't empower.
Very good. The word all still means something to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet we're told all the time that a Supreme Court decision is the law of the land. Can't be. It's the law of the case.
Exactly. And I'm glad, once again, hopefully you people caught that. You know, it's like you said, the Constitution is not a boring document. Matter of fact, it's very sexy and exciting. Okay, but well, the schools and our school systems don't always bring this. The one thing that when I say impressed me, something I brought to my viewers, they'll hopefully see in a week or so, and that was I was listening to Naomi Wolf, and I'd never heard her before, but the one point she brought up, one of many points she brought up, was the fact that the Constitution wasn't written so that a Harvard scholar is going to make sure that things are constitutional.
Right.
It was written so that you and I and our viewers could determine very easily, just by going to this reference document, wow, what's constitutional and what's not?
Right.
You know, what's right and what's wrong.
Well, exactly. So if a Supreme Court decision is the law of the case and it binds only the plaintiff and the defendant, then how can it be the law of the land? And yet we're told that and we operate under that situation. All right? Now, if all lawmaking power is in Congress, how much of it is in the executive branch?
Exactly zero.
Again, none.
That's right.
But we get executive orders, we get presidential decision directives,
right.
We get signing statements, and so on.
I know. Don't you love that? The fact that here's a law that's good for all you people, but it's not good for me.
No. So,
You know?
so President Bush puts a little thing and changes the law by putting a signing statement on it. It's terribly wrong. Okay. But now, go back to the sentence. All legislative powers herein granted are vested in Congress. How about herein granted? Herein granted where? In the Constitution. Are powers given to Congress? They can make law regarding this and this and this and this and this. Yes, 17 of them in Article 1, Section 8. And that's all. Right? All right, so if all powers are herein granted in the Constitution, I defy anybody to find foreign aid. It's not there. Or education, or housing, or medicine, or health, or welfare, or all of these different things that we see today. George Washington's cabinet had 5 members. Today we got, what, 19?
Oh my gosh, I'm with you.
All right? All right? And most of them are gigantic bureaucracies that are strangling the free enterprise system.
And not really answerable to the people either.
Well, they're not answerable to the people. That's very true. They're not answerable to the people. So go back to that first sentence in the Constitution. All power, legislative powers herein granted are vested in Congress. And if that were enforced, we'd be way out of a lot of trouble.
Exactly, in a much freer society and probably a lot more creative and stuff. Many people, though, fear the responsibility that freedom puts upon them.
So they empowered Congress to do this, and the president has some powers. The Supreme Court has some authority. There's an article for each of the branches of government, right? So at the end of it, then they finally said, somebody said, well, we ought to just tell people what we believe our freedoms are. And so they added the Bill of Rights. Now, you know what the Bill of Rights is. It's like the commandments, thou shalt not. Thou shalt not.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's Congress shall not, shall not, shall not, shall not. And I love to say all the way up to the marvelous 10th Amendment that says if we forgot anything, you can't do that either. Right?
Yeah.
That's what the 10th Amendment says. Those powers not given to the federal government are reserved to the states and to the people.
Exactly.
Right? So it's all very simple, but it's been very much ignored. And I blame the schools.
That's where I was going to go in the conditioning, not just the boob tube, but the schools, in that they've got us believing that, once I was saying, I was going to this gal, Naomi Wolf, who had said, hey, this wasn't made for, a Harvard graduate, to determine for us. This was for the people. This was a whole document that told the people what to do. And, and we, when I say we, maybe not us, but society many times has said, well, I've got an expert here and an expert there and a talking talking head over here and a talking head over here.
Yeah.
And instead of the people realizing, hey, it's either right or wrong, it's very easy to understand.
Well,
do they have the right to free press? Let's see. Yep. They do. They have the right to assemble? Yes, they
Yes.
do. Does it say free speech zones behind chain link fence and barbed wire? No, it says no. It says the
that's
right to
great.
assemble. To redress grievances? Yes, they
You know,
do.
you mentioned Naomi Wolf, and she's a proud leftist.
Yeah,
All right?
they're probably leftist
Very
feminists.
proud leftist. She's very much opposed to that Military Commissions Act.
Her and I both.
All right? I
Yeah.
wrote about it recently, and of course, Congressman Ron Paul has come out with a bill to cancel the Military Commissions Act.
Good thing.
And Naomi Wolf said, I don't know that I agree with this man about a lot of things, but I sure agree with him on that. And you're going to see a coalition of what they call themselves leftists, and we're supposedly rightists and so forth. No, if you're a constitutionalist, if you believe in personal freedom and so forth, you're going to see an alliance here, and it's very exciting to me.
Very.
I'm glad to see it. So, well, what about the Constitution? I'll go back to the Constitution. One of the most misunderstood, and deliberately so, portions of it is Congress shall have the power to coin money.
And regulate the value thereof.
And regulate the value. All right, now what did that mean? Did it mean that they should start a bank? No. Did it mean that they should empower some private organization like the Federal Reserve to manage the economy?
Didn't
of the
empower
United
them to do that either.
Right, right. But they will claim that. They claim that the power comes from the congressional power to coin money. But, you know, what the Founding Fathers meant by that was very simple. They meant establish a mint, so you can take precious metals and you can shape them into coinage of a fixed size, weight, and purity so that everybody would know what you're dealing with
And
when
it
you're in
was right,
commerce.
and standards.
And it spurred commerce immensely. As
Right.
it always, good money will spur commerce. And it did. So today we have the Federal Reserve, started in 1913. And now we have no gold behind the money. We have no silver behind the money. We have the promise of politicians and economists, and sometimes those promises aren't kept.
Well, and when they say the good faith of whatever the people, what they're saying is coercion by sometimes people with badges and guns
Right,
to,
right.
to squeeze the people for some form of,
That's right.
slavery and
Well,
tax.
you got other problems too. If you don't have precious metal behind the currency, which we don't have anymore in this country, then it can be inflated. And we see inflation. Now, inflation is not rising prices. Inflation is an increase in the quantity of currency, which lowers the currency's value, and so people then want more of it in return for their goods and services. You think that the prices are rising. No, it's not so much the price is rising. It's the value of the currency has gone down.
I try to constantly inform my populace, when I say my populace, these viewers, that just what you said, that, one of my favorite analogies was I used the, and I don't mean to be windy, I want to get your time and stuff, but yeah, I used, their dwellings, did their parents grow up anywhere in this neighborhood? What did they pay for a house? What does a house cost today?
Right.
And did a house have a roof 40 years ago? Did it have walls, a heating system,
It
running
did.
water?
It certainly did.
Yeah, and how so much of that has changed.
Well, if you believe that inflation is rising prices, you blame the merchant.
Don't they now?
You blame the
Exactly.
shopkeeper. You
Yeah.
blame the guy who has the gas
You're
station.
extorting me.
Right?
Yeah.
You blame him. No, it's not his fault. It's that he has to get more of that in return for his goods and services.
Because it has less purchasing
Because
power.
it has less value, and the dollar continues to go down. I think that's one of the biggest problems we face in America right now.
I agree with
The
you.
erosion of the dollar, and if it continues, then the dollar is going to become worth less.
But it's making slaves of the populace. And wasn't it
process.
Jefferson who said that if we ever allow a central bank to control our currency, that we'd wake up
He
as...
feared the banks more than he feared anything.
Yeah, he said that our descendants will wake up, as...
But what Jefferson also said is, speak to me not of confidence in men, but bind them down from mischief with the chains of the Constitution. All right? Now, another point I love to make is this. Our country is well known as being the greatest in the world, and it still is, and I want to keep it that way. I want to get back and make it even better. The United States of America did not become the envy of the world because of what government did. It became the envy of the world because of what government was prohibited from doing.
Right, the freedom it allowed its citizens.
Right. Government was limited, the people were free. And what do free people do? They work, they produce.
They're creative, they're not restrained.
They're able to keep the fruits of their labor and so on. And that's what made America great, not government programs.
Exactly. I mean, and not just that, not government bureaucracies,